Hi there. Hello. I'm Clifford Bates, and welcome once again to reading Machiavelli's Discourses. Today, we're still in Book 1 of the Discourses and looking today at Chapter 54. So let's go look on to Chapter 54. What is it? It's a small chapter. It's going to be brief, one paragraph. Says, how much authority a grave man may have to check an excited multitude. So this is the example of, in other words, a grave man. A grave man. This is in Greek it would have been the spudaio, the serious one, the spudaios, someone like this, or the gravitas, the Latin gravitas. Someone has gravitas, right? This grave man, someone with gravitas, someone's status or might or power that check the excited multitude, right? So how much authority that man may have. The second notable point on the text cited above, in the above chapter, is nothing is so apt to check the excited multitude as the reverence for some grave man, some men of gravitas, some grave man of authority, somebody with in other words, someone with gravitas who has authority, right? Who puts himself against it. In other words, now this is the problem. The Nicias example does kind of question that. The example of Nicias in the last chapter, the question there is Nicias, and actually, if you know the Thucydides account, Nicias's mistake wasn't simply opposing it. It was he tried to do it by making it too. In other words, he made it bigger than it was. In other words, he wanted to defeat it by exaggerating, taking the Alcibiades limited plan of Alcibiades and exaggerated, and so therefore the question was, so even though Nicias was considered a good man, he did not act. The way he acted in that case was not prudent in that sense. It was cunning rather than prudent, and the cunning bit him in the ass. Too cunning by half can choke. That instead of scaring the assembly, his exaggerated plan made it sound this is a great thing to go do. All right. So. And that led to the disaster, so the question is that this is against it. So he didn't really argue against it. Even though he was against it, he didn't argue against it. He puts himself against it. Nor does Virgil say without cause. Then, if they happen to look on some man, grave and with piety and merit, they are silent and stand by with open ears. Right. This is right from the Aeneid of Book 1, 152. Right. This is the quote from the Aeneid in Latin. In other words, you confronted with a man with grave and with piety with piety. In other words, people have faith in him. There's faith with him. And merits. They are silent and stand by with open ears. Therefore, he who is posted to an army or who finds himself in a city where tumult arises should represent himself before it with the greatest grace and as honorably as can, putting himself the ensign of the rank he holds, so as to make himself more reverent. In other words, he needs to do what? He needs to use his status and authority as much as possible, and do so with what he says honorably, with grace and honorably. A few years ago, Florence was divided into factions, Francesca and Arabetta, as they were called, right? Again, this is Francisco were the followers of Savonarola, the Frata, or the fire, in the period of 1494 to 1498, where he was the powerful force in Florence, and their opponents were called the Arabati, the rabbit, right? So the two forces, in that sense, the two forces, right, that drove him in that sense. And coming to arms, the Fratici were overcome, amongst whom was Pagonetto Sontanari. So can never Sodinelli. I wish I could say the name. It's like, Pagolantonio, Sodinelli, right? This a very highly reputed citizen in those times. So he coming to arms with this, were overcome among. This guy was among them, but he was a highly reputed citizen at that time. As the armed people in those tumults were going to him at his home to sack it, Francesco, his brother, and then Bishop of Volterra, and today Cardinal, by fate found himself at home. Having heard the noise and seen the disturbance, he at once put on his most honorable clothes, and over them his episcopal rochet, put himself against those who were armed, and with the presence and with words stopped them. In other words, he was there. He was the brother of him, but he was a bishop. He put on the robes. In other words, he dressed up. He put on the best clothes he had, and he put over them his episcopal rosette to prove that he's episcopal. And against those who was in arms, and therefore with his presence and his words, they stopped him. That affair was noted and celebrated through all the city for many days. I conclude thus that there is no more steady nor more necessary remedy for checking an excited multitude than the presence of one man, who, because of his presence, appears and is reverend. Thus, to return to the text before, one sees how much obstinacy the Roman plebs accepted the policy of going to Viri because it judged it useful, nor did it recognize the harm that there was underneath. And since the very many tumults were arising from it, scandals would have arisen in the Senate. Scandals would have arisen if the Senate, with its grave men full of reverence, had not checked their fury, right? This is the example. This is Livy, book 5. They needed to check their fury. In other words, they had to, grave men did not check the fury of the people. In other words, they had people who could go there with gravity and do it. In other words, this is what prevented what prevented the ruin of the last chapter is the presence of grave men. I always like to say, but sometimes the grave man isn't enough, right? That's the problem, right? The question is, to what degree is that there's a little bit of luck there also? He doesn't. No, the text doesn't speak of any luck. The text speaks of the gravity, the character of the person. Okay, so that's the important aspect: the gravity of the person's character, that can stop them. In other words, that they by their character and who they are, and their authority also. That it's a combination: their character plus authority. They have some authority, some symbol of authority with this. These two things. That they're serious, they're able to do it, they have grace, They're able to do things. They don't come across as crude. They come off as someone who is of importance, authority, but also of a certain character, right? The grave or the serious person. So here this ends the chapter. It's a short chapter highlighting the answer. We kind of an answer to the last chapter. If you have any comments or questions, please put it below, and I will respond to them when I see them. I'll comment or add some things, or people can comment and add some things. If you want to know, maybe there's lots of modern examples I could go into, but the problem with those is that I don't want to go into a text. It takes someone who's someone standing up to somebody can stop the mob in that sense. But at the same time, there's many stories of people, being overcome and destroyed by the mob too. So therefore, that's the, even the example of Socrates, right? The Socrates trial, right? This is seen, but some people argue that Socrates trial is a trap because he provoked it. Okay, he could have gotten out of it. There was ways to get out of it. Not even escaping. There was ways that if there was people more, if he had his friends, if Xenophon or other people were not present at that time of the trial were there, the things might have gone differently. So therefore, this is why you have to always sometimes things we take as the oh my God. There's the story of oh my God, is it Van Dyck, the Dutch leader that he was overcome and destroyed by the masses, and actually they ate him. They tore him to shreds. Again, this is your examples. Now, if you have any comments, please put them in there, and I'll respond to them. Now, if you like the video, hit the like button. Hit it. If you liked it, like it. If you liked it, not, share it. Please share it on your social media. Share it with your friends. Share it far and wide. If you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Do subscribe. Encourage your friends to come check the channel out, check the other playlists and things like that, and encourage them to subscribe. Us helping the channel and the algorithm grow. Doing all these things help the algorithm, so more people come check the channel, will come discover the channel. Another thing I want you to, okay, of course, if you didn't like it, or you have a comment or criticism, you can always thumbs down it and just say what the comment and criticism, and just put in the text, put it in the comment section. This way people can benefit from your criticism. In other words, that's the hope. We hope that can happen. You can follow me on social media. The links are below if you want to. If you want to know more about me as an academic, a scholar, a researcher, check out my scholarship and things like that. You can go to the academic social media links below the social media links. And if you want to help me to do what I do, you can do so through Patreon or Subscribestar, or by buying one of the books listed below, either through your local bookstore or through, let's say, an online distributor like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Libris, whatever, or through the publishers themselves. Well, that's it. We'll turn to the next chapter on this. We're finished. So have a good day, and we'll see you soon with the next chapter. Bye-bye.